Welcome back to Kyle's Kangaroo, the death of the humanities, the numbers game. We're living in an age where numbers speak louder than words. Budgets, charts, dashboards. These dominate the boardrooms and now the classrooms. Higher education once centered around wonder, philosophy, literature, art, history, fields that taught us to ask why, not just how much. Education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an open mind. Malcolm Forbes. But today, the mind is being dismantled, downsized, or discarded. Departments of English and history are vanishing across universities. Administrators say it's to save money, but what does that really save us from? When numbers are the only thing that matter, when value is reduced to metrics and returns, something sacred begins to erode. In this landscape, only what can be sold survives. And what can't be packaged and monetized, ideas, reflections, spirit, gets discarded. The humanities teach us to question, to challenge inherited ideas, to understand cultures not our own, to sit with uncertainty, to cultivate empathy, not data-driven empathy, real, raw human connection. Without them, we become more efficient, but less aware. We know more in theory, but understand less. We chase output, but forget impact. How do we think about ethics, justice, beauty, power? Without them, policy becomes profit. Relationships becomes transactional, and the truth becomes whatever sells best. We are building a society again, in theory, optimized for performance, but not for meaning. This way of thinking is everywhere now. There is no sense of civic duty or collective togetherness. Everything is divided and depends on if it makes sense to make sense. And cents on a dollar is all we are making these days, as the divide between the rich and the poor gets greater. We look for something to blame: ourselves, my neighbor, the man who dresses and talks differently from me. We are wired biologically to place survival above all, but at the same time, we live in a time of abundance and technological advancements. We are still apes in suits, devolving at an alarming rate. That's the point of education, a genuine education. Not for you to be another cog in the machine or a machine, but to be a real human being. Let's talk about teachers, specifically in the United States. When society stops respecting teachers, it signals something deep, a rejection of introspection. Why should a poet get a pension? Why fund a museum when we need engineers? But here's the thing: engineers build the machines. Poets remind us why we're building them in the first place. The philosopher asks if the bridge should be built, not just whether it can be. Teachers don't just transfer knowledge, they plant something deeper: curiosity, restraint, perspective. When we treat them as unnecessary expenses, we cut the very heart of intellectual freedom. We start to believe only the grind matters, the grind of machines, of bodies worn down, of gears turning. The screws in your hip replacement are more respected than the thoughts in your head. This isn't a conspiracy, it's economics. Universities are increasingly run like corporations. Students are customers. Degrees are products. I'm a teacher. I have seen this. An A is so cheap these days to keep our customers happy. But what happens when everyone is super? What happens when your 4.0 is just a standard on any application. And in a marketplace like that, the humanities are a bad investment. They don't lead to a high paying job, they don't produce patents, they don't scale. So they are pruned, minimized, replaced. This shift reflects a broader cultural move from collective meaning to individual gain, from exploration to extraction. In that model, the world is no longer a place to understand, it's a place to exploit. What happens to a society that rejects this soul? We become smart but not wise, literate in code but illiterate in compassion, capable of building empires and burning them down with equal efficiency. We lose the ability to reflect, and without reflection, we repeat. We become reactive, not contemplative, more interested in the next thing than the right thing. Public discourse fragments, cynicism rises, politics become polarized, art becomes soulless, and education becomes job training, nothing more. The humanities, the humans won't disappear. They'll survive in fragments, in books, in protest songs, in solitary classrooms. But their power will be muted until we remember we're not just workers or consumers. We're thinking, feeling beings trying to make sense of our existence. We need soul. The life. I lay here in a curated garden, lined by my HOA barbers. I see the same man every cycle. Such silence starts voices in my head, but I know they aren't real. It is dawn. Lawn and life are good looking. Cute fruit trees germinate. Ladybugs crawl over my cornea. It's not very fulfilling, but that's a me problem. A handsome Negro teen smoking a cigarette walks a Havanese. This is life.